Hello, I'm Chief Tony Reese with the Emerald Isle Police Department. Summer's approaching, and with that means hurricane season. So there's some simple things that we want you to be aware of that you need to do in order to be prepared in the event we have a hurricane. Well, the main thing I want you to know is that we don't ever close the bridge. We constantly get phone calls asking about the bridge closed. We will never close the bridge during a hurricane. There are times when we won't let people come on the island, but that's only because we have a curfew in effect, and it's easier to turn you around at a 4-lane road than it is on a 2-lane road. Yeah, again, we never close the bridge. And at any time, if the mandatory evacuation order is issued and you decide that you're going to stay, but 3 or 4 hours into the storm rolling in, you decide, you know what, this is a bad decision, I'm going to go ahead and leave, you will always be able to leave this island. That's why I say the bridge is never closed. We just don't allow people to come back on once we put that curfew in place. My recommendation is that if you're deciding to leave during a curfew, call the police department, tell us who you are, where you live, and that you've changed your mind and you now want to leave the island. Give us a description of the vehicle you're going to be driving so that if we see you, we'll know what you're doing off of your property. Typically, if my officers see someone out here and they're driving around after a curfew, if they stop you and you tell them, look, I've changed my mind, I don't want to stay during this, they're going to escort you off the island, and then they'll go back to their patrols. Anytime we place a curfew in effect, it has to be done through a proclamation by the mayor, and we will advertise it on our website, on our social media pages, on the Emerald Isle Police Department Facebook page. We'll put postings to let you know that a curfew is going to go into effect ahead of time so that you have plenty of time to prepare and be on your property at the time that you need to be when the curfew goes into effect. Normally, if we have a hurricane and we have done a mandatory evacuation, the mayor is going to put in place a curfew. And the purpose behind that is to ensure that we're protecting the property of the people who have left their property in our care. A voluntary evacuation is an evacuation where we're asking you to leave, we're recommending that you leave because conditions can get to a point where a person's property or health could be in jeopardy, but we're leaving it up to you. A mandatory evacuation is when we are telling you that if you don't leave, you're not going to have the available police, fire, and EMS services to come to your aid in the event something happens. We can never make you leave your own property, but we do recommend under a mandatory evacuation that you do leave. The important thing about a curfew is you need to remember that when a curfew is in effect, you are required to remain on your property. It does not matter that the storm is over. It does not matter that the sun is now shining. If the curfew is in effect, if you're off your property, you're in violation. I'm asking you to help us by doing that, by complying with that requirement, because we're trying to do the things necessary through damage assessments, evaluating street conditions, so that we can reopen the island to allow other property owners to return to their property. And if we're having to stop in order to see what you're doing and escorting you back to your property during the curfew, you're taking resources away from what we're trying to do to get the island back open for everyone. Everyone who lives in Emerald Isle is entitled to a disaster reentry permit. You should receive this from your property owner when you buy or purchase your home, or from your landlord if you're a tenant of a rental property. If you don't have one, they are available at the Emerald Isle Police Department. You can come and purchase one for $25. What I would recommend that you do is when you get this reentry permit, you need to put it with your important papers in your vehicle, the vehicle that you're going to be taking with you when you evacuate the island. That way you're sure to have it when you get ready to come back. You'll know exactly where it is, and it's in the same place every time. You will have to have this permit in order to be able to get back on the island once an evacuation, a mandatory evacuation has occurred. And just because you have the permit doesn't mean you're entitled to come on the island. But what happens is we typically open the island to property owners first in order to give them time to be able to get on to their property, make sure that it's secure and that it's not dangerous before we start allowing people who are not residents of Emerald Isle or property owners of Emerald Isle to come on the island. Some things that I want you to avoid in the event that we do have a hurricane. First and foremost, don't advertise the fact that you've left your home. And don't advertise the fact that where your address is, or in some cases you may see something going on a camera and you want to post it on Facebook. My recommendation is you call us, let us get there and check it out. I would also not recommend that you post asking someone to go by and check your home, because you're advertising the fact that you're not there.